Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hey there, folks. This is Brad Varnell. This is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel. Thank you all so much for joining us today here on this beautiful Monday morning. Could be Monday afternoon or Monday evening for a lot of you, depending on what time of the world you are in. But I am excited to share some stuff with you that has really been on my heart over the last week. I was thinking about it just in the last couple of minutes. Like, what can I say? How can I have an impact on the lives of the people that are taking their most valuable resource, their time, and spending it with me this morning? And folks, I've got a lot of things on my heart, and I hope that you appreciate them as much as I appreciate them. And what I mean by that is a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk to you about today is not necessarily, this is not wisdom from Brad Varnell. I'm not going to say that none of it is an original thought, but a lot of it is coming from other sources and people that are my mentors. And so, one of the things that I'm a very huge believer in life is spending time with the people that are where you want to be. So I spend a lot of time in my life with multi millionaires, people that have the finances that I want, the people that have the marriages and the relationships that I want, people that, are in a position in life to be able to help me. And folks, the way that I do that for the most part at this point is through YouTube videos, just like this one that you're getting ready to watch, folks. I probably spend 10 hours, 15 hours a week listening to different people on YouTube that I believe are having a huge impact in my life, in my ability to achieve the dreams and the things that I want to achieve. And then I'm kind of taking a little bit of each one of those people and what I think I'm listening to that pertains to, cryptocurrency and what you guys are, excited about, and trying to package it up a little bit and present it to you in a way that will not only help your cryptocurrency journey, but will hopefully just help you to have a higher and better quality of life. And so, I'm huge on live events. I do go to live events as much as I can. And a lot of these people that right now I'm watching their YouTube channels, they don't know who I am, but I do have the dream that as I make it to where I want to make it to in life, as the bull market commences and my finances continue to skyrocket, a lot of these folks that right now I'm just watching on a YouTube video, I highly believe are going to become some of my friends in the world. And instead of just watching them on YouTube, I'm actually going to be hanging out with them and spending time with them and vacationing with them and being able to call them my friend. And I hope that a bunch of you that are supporting this channel on this early, we're early with this channel. And, I hope that a lot of us get an opportunity over the years to actually get to know each other and, become friends. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to spend most of the day with this incredible couple and their daughter, along with my wife and my son. And this is a couple that I met at an event here in Vegas called WealthCon, ran by Ryan Pineda. It's more of a real estate investing community, but really it's just a group of winners and a high level networking event. And anyways, I met this amazing family at WealthCon, and then we have stayed in touch. And this gentleman has actually gotten involved in crypto. He was already involved in crypto. That's one of the reasons that we connected at WealthCon. But, he's involved now in a few of the private sales that I'm doing. And long story short, I knew that he was going to be in town this last weekend. And so I reached out to him and invited him to go to church, my church with me yesterday, and then to go to lunch. And so it was so awesome. Him and his wife and his 19-year-old daughter, they showed up. We had an amazing church service. And then after church, we got to sit down and, break bread and have some just amazing fellowship and conversation. And I feel like these folks, just in a very short time, have become incredible friends. And we're looking forward to spending more and more time with them over the years, because they're like-minded and they're positive and they're excited about their future. They're excited about where they're wanting to go in life. They're honest. They're trustworthy. They're folks that I, can trust my wife around and trust my son around, and all of those things that are so important. So, with that, folks, please continue to, reach out to me. I love it when you message me. I love the emails. I love the private messages. And just feel free to let's connect. If you're out here in Vegas, you're going to be enjoying some time down on Las Vegas Boulevard, you're coming out for a vacation or you're coming out for something, please never hesitate to reach out to me. And if I can make it happen, I would love to connect with you. So real quick here, let's hop into the chat. Deadwood, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Deadwood says, good morning. Smash that like button on the way in. A like and a share goes a long ways for the algorithm. That's so true. And folks, I wanted to thank you. Thank you for reminding me, Deadwood. I wanted to thank you all for sharing this video and all of the videos that you've been sharing. So something that's really cool, when you look at your YouTube analytics, you can actually see how many times your videos have gotten shared. And it's amazing the increase in shares that has been happening over the last 30 days. So I just want to thank you all and, encourage you, please share again. Share as much as you can. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. Let me share my screen real fast. I'd like to show you something that you might not have known, and that might make it even more fun and enjoyable for you to share the YouTube channel. So we are going to add this to the stage here real quick. And then I want to go over actually to my YouTube channel. Get over here and go to my YouTube channel. And folks, when you are on YouTube, like right now, you're watching this video right here, we're live. I'm going to go to a different video so that one doesn't pull up, and I'm going to turn off the sound. I want to make sure that I'm actually sharing my screen. Yeah, let's get rid of Deadwood's comment here. So you're on my YouTube channel. You decide you're going to watch this Starter Labs video. And folks, when you are hitting that like button, right here is the share button. If you hit this share button, YouTube makes it super easy for you to share. Like, you can literally, if you want to share this to your Facebook friends, you just hit the Facebook tab here, and it'll go to your Facebook. If you have your Facebook open and connected, you can go to your Facebook and you can share whatever video you want to share. Same thing with Twitter. If you hit Twitter right here, it'll literally take you right to your Twitter account. It'll actually even create part of the post. The title of the video and the link for the video will be right there in the post. And all you have to do is maybe put in a quick word or two. But I mean, you can do it on Reddit, WhatsApp. You can even, look at LinkedIn, Tumblr, just about Pinterest, any place that you really want to share this to. You can even just email it. If you've got friends or family that you would like to, be having check out something, you can even just email it. So, folks, that's not my, if you don't feel comfortable sharing at this point, no worries. But I did just want to let you all know how easy it is to share through that tab. You don't have to try to copy and paste and do everything yourself. You can do it super easily. So I just wanted to thank all of you that have been sharing, because word of mouth advertising, folks, is the most, the highest type of advertisement that there is. And you would be amazed if you share this YouTube channel with 2 or 3 people. If everybody did that, the 4 going on 5,000 viewers that we have would turn into 10 or 15,000 very quickly. And then if those 10 or 15,000 people, share it with another 2 or 3 people, man, you're all the way up to 30, 40, 50,000 subs just from a handful of people sharing it with 2 or 3, or 4 or 5 people. So anyways, thank you very much, Deadwood, for being here. I appreciate you. We got Dave P. I don't remember the last time I did a live stream and Dave wasn't here. So thank you so much for being here, Dave. And just really appreciate all of you here that are on the channel, man. If you want to shout out, please say hi or let me know in the chat that you are here. Would love to give you guys a shout out. But having said all of that, let's get into some of the main topics, some of the main things. I've got my notebook here. I've been writing notes. Some of the main things that I wanted to mention. I've got these things kind of written down, not in any real order. And don't worry, the title of this video is the number one thing that is keeping you from having, crypto wealth or crypto success. I don't remember the exact wording, but I am going to get around to what that number one thing is. And it's kind of cool. I think I came up with a second number one thing as I was putting this together just in the last few minutes of my due diligence and getting ready for this video. I came up with a second number one. So you're going to actually get 2 number one things that you're doing that are, keeping you from really having all of the crypto success and wealth that you want. Hey, good morning. We got Tremendous 2K. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today. We got Dahana J. Thank you for being here. I hope I didn't butcher your name too badly, but I appreciate you being here. I know I recognize the name. I believe that you joined the Telegram and the Discord. So thank you for that. Appreciate you. Appreciate your support and having you in the community. So I'm looking at my notes, and I guess the first thing that I want to talk about that I thought was really powerful this week is I was listening to a gentleman, and he mentioned that a lot of folks are, for lack of a better word, he kind of used, a lot of folks are kind of cheap, and they're always grumbling about the price of everything. And folks, I know that I've been guilty of this. Have any of you ever been like, oh my gosh, did you see the price of, of a gallon of gas? Oh my goodness, I went to the grocery store yesterday. Do you see, how much steak costs right now? Or do you see how much, meat and produce have gone up? And man, I went to go look at buying a car. My car's starting to get a little bit older. I thought about, buying a new car. And oh my gosh, man, have you seen the prices of the cars these days? Am I the only one guilty of that, or do you guys do that too? Well, this gentleman kind of explained why that is, and it made so much sense, folks. So most of us, I'm trying to break free from this myself. I've done an okay job of breaking free from it, but it's still lingering a little bit. But most of us are used to comparing how much money we make per hour to how much something costs. So the other part of that equation is you're sitting there at the gas pump, and if you make, say, $20 an hour, and it just cost you $60+ to fill up your gas tank, you're not going, oh man, this $60 is a lot of money. You're going, oh my goodness, this $60 is 3 hours of my life. And so what we're constantly doing, most of us, is we're actually comparing the price of things to the time that it takes us to earn them. And man, when you start thinking about, a mortgage payment, a couple $1,000 or $3,000 mortgage payment, and you start dividing in I got to go to work for 10 days of the month in order to pay my mortgage payment. Somebody's looking at buying a car, and it's a $60,000 car, and they make $60,000 a year. And they're like, man, I got to work a whole year of my life for this car. And then for those of you that are financially literate, you realize that it's way worse than that, because 99% of people going out and buying a $60,000 car are financing it. And so with the interest and all of that stuff, paying it off over 5, 6, 7 years, it's probably that $60,000 car is probably costing you 80, 90, or 100. And so folks, if you ever wonder why there's people walking around the world like this all the time, it's because they're thinking about how many hours they have to work in order to do something and in order to afford something. And one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit today, the cure for that, folks, is to quit trading time for dollars. It's the worst way in the world to support yourself, to support your lifestyle, to support your family. And folks, we have been conditioned to believe that that is the way to go. So it falls back on all of our lives. Maybe some of you haven't heard this, but I'm going to guess that every single person on this video, if I were to use the words, go to school, get a good education so that you can get a good, you can all fill in the blank. And I don't believe that there's one person watching this video that would really fill that blank in with anything other than a job. We've been conditioned, our government, not to get political on you, but our government has conditioned us to think that the way to having a good life is to go to work and have a good job and to have a career. And folks, I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. I had my son create a meme for me, or a picture that I wasn't able to get it situated to where I could present it today, but it basically has the words job, J-O-B, with a big period in between the letters. So J-O-B. And then underneath that, it says just over broke. And that's, in my mind, what a job stands for, just over broke. And in some cases, for a lot of us at times in our life, a job wasn't just over broke, it was under broke. A lot of times, in order to make it and make ends meet, needed to put a few dollars on the credit card here and there, needed to fill up that gas tank with a little bit of credit card money, or needed to use that credit card at the grocery store. And it's just it's a bad system. It's a flawed system, and it's going to kind of carry me into a little bit of my next point. But, on that subject still, part of what we're doing here on this channel is we are creating ways to break free of that bondage. So when I hate jobs, I ain't gonna lie, but it's not the job that I hate, or like the employer. I don't think that business owners that provide jobs for people are bad people, not at all. And if there wasn't business owners and entrepreneurs, we wouldn't have an economy. So don't get me wrong, like I love people that go out and create and have the ability to help, people work through jobs. For whatever reason, not everybody's cut out, to be an entrepreneur. And so there has to be some jobs. But I believe that if you're watching this channel right now, there's a good possibility that God has put a dream in your heart that's bigger than just having a job. And so this channel is for folks that want to break free from that bondage, that are tired of just barely making enough money, that are tired of working 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week just to have the bare necessities. Like I don't believe God put us here on this earth to work all day long and then get to spend a couple hours with the people that we love, go to sleep, and do it all over again for 40 or 50 years of a 70 or 80-year life. I don't think that's why we're here. And so, unfortunately, humans screw up things in the world. And I'm going to transition. I'm going to come back to how we can break free of the bondage that we are in and this conditioning. Like, folks, I really love the movie The Matrix, but it's kind of a scary movie. And if you've never seen it, go check it out. It's a great movie, and I don't want to ruin it for you. But, that movie hits a little bit too close to home sometimes for me, because although you and I, we wake up in the morning and we feel like we're going through our day, that we're making choices, independent choices. We're thinking with this brain of ours, and we're making choices and choosing to do the things that we're doing in our life. And when it really comes down to it, unfortunately, for most people, that is not the truth, because you were born into this world and you started getting conditioned by it while you were still helpless, folks. When you were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old and you were totally helpless, you were getting conditioned by this world, by this government. And this happened a long time ago. So I'm not going to get this straight, get this perfect. I've just heard it a couple of times myself. But I want to go through real quickly the history of money. And I'm probably going to miss a couple of things, and I'm going to get some numbers off. I'm going to get this presentation together a little bit better because I think it's powerful, but I think you guys will get my point. So from the beginning of time until roughly around 1700, agriculture was wealth. So if you, or maybe it was earlier than that. I think I'm missing a step. Maybe I won't go through the years, but way back, in biblical days and kind of, and moving forward through a lot of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, agriculture, was wealth. Everybody, had to make their own food. And the farmers and the landowners, maybe I'll lump that together, landowners and the farmers had all of the wealth. And so back in those days, if you owned land, you were wealthy. And if you didn't own land, you were poor. There was no middle class. And also, folks, back then, if you were born wealthy, if you were born into somebody's family that had land, you were born wealthy, and you pretty much stayed wealthy your whole life unless somebody else came along and conquered you and took your land, and then you became poor. Then on the flip side, folks, there wasn't any opportunity. If you were poor and you were born poor, you were probably going to stay poor for your whole life. And then, things kind of flipped around in, 1700s, going into the 1800s. We started to hit, the transportation age. Trains, became invented, and horses and buggies. And so now, because of tools and stuff being invented, people were plowing land better. They had tools to work the land, so they were able to create more food than they needed, and then that food needed to get distributed to other parts of the world and to other parts of the country. So that next age, was the distribution age. And the people that really got wealthy, in that distribution age were the people that owned those companies, the people that owned the railroads, and that were, the horse and buggy, company and different stuff like that. And you started to see, small businesses pop up. Back in the Old West, you would have a blacksmith that that shoed the horses. You would have, even back those days in the old country days, you would have a doctor that would usually service that community. And then general stores started popping up and stuff like that, where you could actually go to a store and buy some goods and that type of thing. But one of the things that is important to notice is that as we go through this timeline a little bit, every age became shorter and shorter. And so the next big thing that happened, folks, and this is what's still affecting us today, is the industrial age. And when the big plants started becoming a thing, they had the steel mills and the plywood mills. And then, when cars started getting invented, they had the assembly line. And I believe it was Smith and Wesson that actually the gun manufacturer, Smith and Wesson, from what I understand, was the first company that really started like mass producing. So at one point in time, Smith and Wesson, they had people making their guns. And what they did is they had 6 people that were all making their own gun. So 6 different people would all make their own gun the way that they did it. And at the end of that, they would have 6 guns that they could sell. Well, somebody came up with an idea, a little bit of a like assembly line, like, hey, Brad, you're going to be responsible for the firing pin. And Josh, you're going to be responsible for the handle and the grips. And Joe, you're going to be responsible for the barrel. And so on and so forth. And what they did is they took those 6 people and they created an assembly line. And each one of those people was just responsible for one part. And what ended up happening because of that was, they started making several times the amount of guns by doing it in a streamlined process like that than they were when they were just individually creating guns themselves. The second thing that happened was everything was interchangeable. It all worked together, where previously when they were just left to make their own gun all themselves, if your gun, had a defect or was broken, you couldn't take my gun and like switch it out for parts and like take two different people's guns and make one gun out of them, because a lot of times they did things differently and it didn't correlate. Well, that is when the powers that be realized that they needed worker bees. And folks, I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers here, but what they really decided back then was we need to manufacture workers. And that's when the brainwashing began. And so our education system sucks, folks. How many of you got to be 18, 19, 20, 30, 40 years old and ever said to yourself, why didn't they teach me how to do this in school? Like, how many of you really learned anything valuable about money and finances in school? I got a 20-year-old daughter getting ready to turn 21, and she's totally helpless when it comes to doing her taxes. She had no idea how to do her taxes. She had no idea, like how to balance a checkbook, how to balance her money. Most of the skills that we are taught in school, we're just memorizing a bunch of useless information that we never use in our adult life. And for those of you that are watching this today, if you're a doctor or you're a lawyer, you're an engineer, you're building bridges or something, then, God bless you. And this isn't for you. Like, I'm all about, if you're a doctor and you're going to, be doing surgery on me someday, then by all means, I want you to have gone to school, and a lot of school, and I wanted you to take it serious and get good grades. If you are an engineer and you're building bridges that me and my family are going to drive across, then absolutely, God bless you. You needed that education. But even most of that education that you got that is helpful to the world was specialized education that was focused on helping you to master that craft. Most of what you learned in high school and junior high and elementary school, well, I shouldn't say elementary school, because I believe elementary school is important. Like, we got to learn how to read and write and do arithmetic and all of that stuff is important. But I'm kind of, it wasn't that many years ago, if you go back and look at the history books, folks, that school ended after the 8th grade. Like, by the time guy was like 12 years old or so, he was ready to go out and take on the world. But then when this industrial age came along and the powers that be decided that they needed to start manufacturing workers, that went away. Now, something else that's interesting about this time frame, if I may, is that it wasn't all bad in the beginning. So back when they started manufacturing these workers, there was a lot of poverty, there was a lot of struggle, there was a lot of people that didn't have anything that was really productive, and so there was still huge economic imbalance. And part of the reason that this industrial age came to pass so easily, in a sense, there was no uproar. Nobody even thought about the fact that they were getting trained to do this work, and they were, somewhat, basically being trained, to be enslaved. And I don't use that word lightly, and I don't want anybody here on the channel that if you're, if you or the, if your ancestors, your descendants were ever in slavery, I don't want to make light of that. The gentleman that I actually learned this from is a black man, an African American, and he used that word enslaved many times. And so it's of my opinion that he used the word enslaved talking about this, that he knows, he understands. He's about 61, 62 years old. He was born in a he couldn't even be born in the main hospital in his town because he was, a black person. And he was born right as civil rights and everything were really starting to come to fruition, but he still, racism was super prevalent. He had to go through a lot of stuff because he was African American, and then he saw and heard stories about what his parents and stuff had went through. So maybe I didn't need to explain that, but it's important to me. My father-in-law is African American, and one time he heard me use the word, enslaved, or use the word like we're being treated like slaves when I was talking in one of my videos, and it kind of offended him. And we got it worked out. He took it, in a way that I wasn't meaning it. But folks, the reason that I use that word is because I want you to see how important it is that your mind get wrapped around breaking free from it. Because really what they did back in that age when they started creating and manufacturing these workers was they really enslaved the human race, and especially us in America, and in England and the UK and stuff. I mean, and it's now here we are 150 years later, and the biggest problem with it is that nothing has changed. So my original point, back when they first started this, there was a lot of positives because it created some wealth. It created the middle class. So now you had the rich, the wealthy, the elite, and then you had a massive middle class. And that middle class that used to be poor now had the ability to not have to worry about how they were going to pay their rent and how they were going to provide food for their family. And now the only people that were really poor were people that were either, physically or just mentally not capable of working, or that were lazy. But for the most part, most of humanity at that point was able to provide a relatively decent living and a decent quality of life for their family. But then, back then, something else that's not talked about much is we were on the gold standard. So, a $10 bill was worth $10 in gold. So that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day when we got off the gold standard. But, what also ended up happening though through this time frame, because of inflation, and the fact that our money started to become worth less and less, is that people had to work harder and harder and harder just to sustain the same amount of life. And something else just came to my mind. It came and it left just as quickly as it came. I was trying to finish that point and still remember the next thing that I wanted to talk about. But so, because of the way that our life, continually the money, the work that we had to do became harder. As we moved into some of these newer eras where the industrial age wasn't as important, the government and the education and the elite, they never got away from this drilling it into our head that we needed to go to school and get a good education so that we could get a good job. So maybe that point will come back to me. I think it was important, but for whatever reason it just flew right out of my head. But I want to get on. I mean, already here, holy smokes, 43 after. Man, I didn't realize it was going to take me this long to go through this. So I'm going to go through the next chunk, fairly quickly. Like, I believe it was 1978. We're going to go through, there was a couple eras in there up to 1978. Most of it was the industrial age, though. But in 1978, something that changed the world happened. And that was, Bill Gates and Michael Dell and IBM and the powers that be, the personal computer was created. And over that, I want to say it was from 78 to like 1994, we went into the information age. And so just to take a quick step back, in the beginning, the people that owned the land were the ones that had the wealth. When we moved into the industrial age, it was the people that owned, the factories and that owned the big businesses that basically, controlled the wealth. Now, when we got into the information age, you can't control information. The sky is blue and the grass is green. Everybody knows that. You can't control information per se, but the people that got extremely wealthy during the information age were the people that controlled the delivery of the information. And this was a very booming time in our lives. We all probably remember, those of us that have been around long enough, remember, the dot-com era and the boom in technology, and things were rapidly changing and life was kind of getting better and easier in some ways because of technology. We were able to keep in touch with people on levels that we were never able to keep in touch with people and stuff on before. The world started creating billionaire after billionaire after billionaire, like Michael Gates and, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and, Michael Dell and all of these people, all of these huge billionaires, and the people that controlled the information like Google and Yahoo, and those corporations were the ones that basically, made massive wealth during that time frame. But what happened, folks, unfortunately for us as humans, most of us don't see this stuff until we're looking in the rearview mirror. So most of you, including me, you probably wouldn't be on this channel had you taken advantage of that era. Like, I literally was sitting inside an arcade at 1978, I was 15. So call it 1983 when I was about 18 years old, right in that ballpark. Yeah, I was at this place called Funtasia. There was like a great big huge arcade, and it had bumper cars, and it had, all these arcade games. It had batting cages. It was pretty cool. It was cutting edge for back then. It was one of the first places like that ever existed. And one of my buddies who was wealthy, who came from a wealthy family, I didn't really understand it at that point in time, was talking about how his parents were buying Microsoft stock. Well, folks, I mean, or wait a minute, 90, excuse me, not 83. I was born in 73. So 88, excuse me, 88 in that ballpark, 88, 89. He was talking about, Microsoft stock. And folks that bought Microsoft stock back in the late 80s, early 90s, basically got to experience what we got to experience in crypto to a very high extent. Like a couple $1,000s worth of Microsoft stock bought in 1990 would have turned into a couple $1 million by 2000 had you held it for a decade. But as I mentioned earlier, every age, everything that's happened, it started to be shorter and shorter periods of time. And so then, I'm going to kind of skip ahead a little bit, but in 2007, the thing that really started to change the world was the iPhone was created. And then that made way for, in 2008, for the App Store to come into existence. And now we kind of moved into the partnership age, where now you could make money just by, being a affiliate and by creating apps and, all of the things, in the App Store, where we had all of this stuff at our fingertips. YouTube came along during that day and age. I wish I knew what I know now about YouTube back then. I'd be worth tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars had I realized. When I first heard about YouTube, I thought, oh, that's kind of a goofy platform. Who in the world wants to sit in front of a camera and act silly, and try to get a bunch of people to watch it? And another, on a little bit of a side note, when I got involved in crypto back in 2017, going into 2018, one of the first things that I started doing was watching some of these crypto YouTubers. And I actually thought about creating a YouTube channel way, way, way back then. And I made the mistake. God bless him. May he rest in peace. My crypto mentor, his name's Jonathan Kelly. And he's was an incredible man. He passed away way too soon. But my mentor, who I had a lot of respect for, I went to him and said, hey, these YouTubers look like they have a pretty cool thing going on. I think I'm going to create and start a YouTube channel. And his exact words were, Brad, don't waste your time. There's no money in YouTube. And unfortunately for me, I listened to him and he didn't know what he was talking about. There's tremendous amount of money in YouTube if you do it right and you stick with it long enough. Like, he had started a YouTube channel maybe a month or two before that. And I think what had happened is he had made, 5 or 10 videos and none of them had really gotten any views. And he didn't realize that, like anything else in life, it was a matter of doing it for long enough, consistent enough to, the compound pounding of doing it consistently and getting your brand and your presence out there, was, he just hadn't done it long enough. But I listened to him, unfortunately, back then, and I didn't start my own YouTube channel. But my point, folks, is that over the last 20, 30 years, it's never been easier to create wealth. But because of this education system and the powers that be, the elite that want to keep us enslaved into their system, most people are never taught about any of it. You have to break outside of the matrix. You have to be like the Neo in life in order to figuring out about all of this. I never heard any of this stuff back in school. They don't teach any of this in school because they don't want you to break free from it. They want you to believe that you got to go to school and go to work and have a good job working for somebody else. That's what they want you to believe. And so this channel is based on freedom. I don't believe in that crap. And I'm here to help people break free from that bondage. So I'm going to get that story condensed into a shorter time frame, and I'm going to get the dates put on it a little bit better so that I can tell it a little bit more compellingly. But last but not least, the last thing that really hit our world and that is changing everything faster than ever is AI, folks. Now, I know AI has been around for a lot of years, but it really just became prevalent in about 2022. And so far in the crypto markets, it's been one of the biggest narratives in crypto. And that is going to continue on, folks. And part of what I am so sad about is this government and these powers that be that have basically turned our society into a bunch of robots now is getting ready to replace us with real robots. And billions of people over the next 10, 15, 25 years are going to become jobless because of AI technology. So I'm not here to get into whether AI is good or bad. It is. It just is. So there's no getting around it, folks. Most lower paying jobs are going to get wiped out. They're not going to need somebody standing behind the counter at McDonald's saying, "Can I take your order, please?" in the very near future. As you can see, a lot of grocery stores have already gotten rid of, a ton of humans and are going to electronic devices. Once again, it's progress. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't want to get in on it. I mean, I have my personal thoughts. I think it's both. I think there's some good in it and there's also some evil. And I think that what we have to be real careful about is that the evil and the evil people that want to use it and can use it to manipulate us and to use it to create, a super society of the super wealthy and the super poor, we gotta squash that out. And that's why it's important for us as humans to break free from that cycle and become financially independent, because then we have freedom and they can't control us. And folks, if you're working at a Walmart or you're working at a lower, paying job and it gets wiped out, and your only choice in life is to either, start taking subsidy from the, government, food stamps and that type of stuff, or you're just going to be like homeless living on the street, it's going to be hard to stay away from that stuff. I know there's a lot of people out there that are very prideful and that no matter what happens to them in life, they're not going to go, get on welfare and that type of thing. But at the same time, I mean, it's what is coming. It ain't pretty. And so I'm here to open people's eyes so that you have choices. If you don't even know that it's coming, you have no choice, man. It'd be like you're standing on an invisible, you're standing on train tracks, enjoying the scenery, and you're looking around and, you can see miles in each direction. So, there's no train. So you're perfectly safe. So you're standing on the train track, enjoying life, looking up at the mountaintop, and all of a sudden, bam, you're dead, because unbeknownst to you, they created invisible trains that didn't make any noise, and there was a train coming. You could have seen it miles and miles and miles off in the distance. If it was just a normal old train, you could have seen it coming and gotten out of the way. Well, folks, these people that are in control are amazing at causing us to go through life with our eyes closed and not understand what is happening and why it is happening. So with that, guys, I hope that, hearing this has opened your eyes. And once again, if you have a job, I am not down on you. A job is a great place to start. It's just a horrible place to finish. So I think everybody, for the most part, should have a job at some point in time, but you should also have a side hustle. You should have your own business. You should go garage sailing on the weekends. I know people that make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars a week, and they love it. They go out all day long to different garage sales and buy some stuff and get it, able to learn their dickering skills and their sales and negotiation skills and, getting things for a little bit, pennies on the dollar. Then they go home and they use Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever is in your region. And, and they sell the stuff. Ryan Pineda, I mentioned him, he's the founder of WealthCon. Before he became an incredible real estate investor, his first real business was flipping couches. He went to buy a couch for himself and his wife. They were youngly married couple. They didn't have a lot of money. He was freshly retired out of professional baseball. He never really made it all the way to the major leagues, and he got cut from the Oakland Athletics, and it was time for him to, strike out in the world. And anyway, so he buys this couch to, throw in this apartment with him and his wife, and he gets it home and they just didn't like it. His wife really didn't like the couch, so what did he do? He decided he, grabbed a steam cleaner, he vacuumed or whatever, he cleaned it all up, made it look real nice, and then he listed it on Craigslist for a couple $100 more than he paid for it, and it sold later that day. And he thought, I wonder if I could do that again. And so he started going through Craigslist and Facebook and different places. And, sometimes when people are giving away couches, they are giving away couches. You get couches for free, or they just don't want to move, and you can get them for a little bit of nothing. So, of course, there's people out there wanting full price and stuff for him too, but he just ignored those people. So he just started making offers on couches all day long. Before you knew it, it's kind of a funny picture, but he shows this picture where his apartment had like 10 couches in it. They were stacked up all over the place. They couldn't even hardly walk through their living room. And he's selling these couches. Long story short, he buys a little, little moving truck, like a little U-Haul, a small U-Haul box truck, and gets himself a storage unit because his wife told him, hey, you got to get these couches out of here, man. We can't have our whole home overrun by couches. But he ended up creating a business that was making him $100,000 a year selling couches. So don't tell me that you can't come up with an idea, that you can't come up with something that if you really think about it and it's important to you, that you can't do on the side of your job. And crypto's fantastic. So, I mean, if you're like, hey, Brad, you're speaking to the choir, man, I know job ain't where I want to be, so I'm doing crypto, then fantastic. But even then, folks, you got to figure out a way to fund your crypto, because we're getting to the number one mistake that people make. And then the second number one mistake. And the second one has a little bit to do with what I'm talking about here, creating the extra income in the ability to invest in real estate or into cryptocurrency. So, start breaking free from that mold. And it's also going to make it so much easier for you to break free from that bondage of the 9 to 5. So even when you start to accumulate crypto, you get 100,000, 250,000, $1 million in crypto. It's still a little hard sometimes to walk away from that job where you're making 50 or 100 or $150,000 a year. But if you have some income stream created outside of crypto, where you're slowly replacing that income from your job and you have your crypto, then you get that much more excited about walking away from your job, because you're not just walking away from your job like, okay, now what am I going to do? Yeah, I've got this $1 million in crypto, but if I go buy a house, I go buy a car, I go on some vacations and blah, 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 most of that is gone. And now what do? I don't have a job. So it's important to plan ahead for that moment so that when the time comes, you're ready to make that leap. So real quick, I'm going to go into two real fast stories, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. But we've talked about it before, how especially in Christianity, a lot of Christians believe that it's bad or greedy to want to have wealth, and it's a biblical fallacy. It's not true. But the Bible gets misquoted and mistaught a lot because it's being taught by humans. But I wanted to just give you a little bit of an illustration. Some of you may or may not have heard about this story. And once again, if I mess up some details, for those of you that are, Bible scholars, if I screw this up a little bit, please go easy on me. I'm somewhat paraphrasing here. This is not going to be exactly verse by verse, exactly the way that it went, but you'll get the idea. So there is a man traveling. I can't remember exactly where he was traveling to. I want to say he was traveling to, Jericho or Bethlehem or one of those biblical cities, from one biblical city to another. And he was traveling along. And back in those days, it was dangerous to travel because there was a lot of robbers and bad people. And when you're walking out on this, what was more like a path than a road, they didn't have roads back these paths, you were very vulnerable. And so this guy, unfortunately, got beat up and robbed by a couple of bad guys. And there he is laying, halfway in between these two cities, all beat up, laying on the side of the road. And a priest comes walking by and pretty much just ignores him. And there's a lot of different things that you can take from this story in the Bible. I'm not going to go into that part of it. But basically a priest just kind of walks by him and acts like he doesn't even exist. Kind of like, if you've ever, been walking from your car up to the grocery store and there's a homeless guy standing right there. It's so easy sometimes to where you don't want to make eye contact. You don't want him to ask you a question. You don't want to engage with him. So it's just so easy to just have tunnel vision. So this priest, who should have been one of the first people to help this guy, just blindly walks right past him. The next group of people that comes by sees him and actually makes sure they go way out and around him as to avoid him, and they continue down the street. Well, then it is said that a certain Samaritan comes along with his beast, and he takes pity on the man and helps the man up and puts him on his beast, and then takes him into the city, goes to the innkeeper, that day's version of a hotel, goes to the innkeeper and pays for this man to have a room where he can take a bath and kind of clean himself up, and buys him food and does all of these things for him. And then even goes as far as to say to the innkeeper, I have to travel on for my business, but if the money that I have given you to take care of this man runs out, please continue to take care of him until he is all the way healed and ready to take care of himself, and put it on my tab, and I will pay you the next time I come through. And what I want to point out about that story, folks, is that this gentleman had some means. So often in life, we would love to be generous. We would love to help other people, but we're barely making it ourselves. And a lot of people that are going through life that are taking care of themselves but can't take care of anybody else, they use these biblical principles or this Christianity or whatever, like that rich people are greedy, as an excuse to not go create wealth in their life. But it's totally a double standard, and it's not right. The Bible cannot contradict itself. So there's many times in life where in the Bible where God warns about wealth, but he doesn't warn against having abundance and having money and having means. He just warns about what you end up doing with it and the type of person that it causes you to become. And that most people, especially if they feel like they're kind of like that self-made millionaire, they did it all on their own, rah, 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 I did it. Most of the time they're too proud, they're too righteous to ever really accept God into their life, because they can't admit that God was a part of their success. Where, as Christians, my belief is every good thing comes from God. What I'm saying to you today, I prayed about. I very much believe, and I hope that what I am saying, the words that are flowing out of my mouth, are hopefully inspired by God, and that God is up in heaven looking down on me this morning, pleased by this time that I'm spending with you and what I'm saying, and trying to help you with. But to get back to the story, guys, the guy had a beast. Well, back then, a beast is like a donkey or, an animal, a horse, a donkey. Those weren't free. They weren't cheap. So in order to have a beast, he had to have some wealth. And not only that, he had enough money to where when he got to the city, he could pay for this guy's hotel room and he could buy the guy food. Not only that, he had enough money and he had enough respect with the innkeeper that he could tell the innkeeper, hey, if this gentleman uses up this money and needs more, go ahead and take care of it, and I will pay you when I get back. Well, folks, it's my contention that the Bible says, God was pleased with that man. it was not good that the priest just walked right by that man. It was not good that the other group of people made a big circle and walked past that man. But how many times in life have we done that? Mostly in a lot of our cases because we didn't have the money. Like there's been a lot of times in my life where I didn't have the money to put somebody up in a hotel room and to buy all of their food. I was just barely making it myself. And that's okay. I mean, that's part of life. But what I'm trying to tell you guys is that it doesn't have to be like that for your whole life. I've had a lot of times in my life where I've been able to be extremely, extremely generous. It also talks about in the Bible, do not tell your right hand what your left hand is doing. So I'm not going to go into those situations because I believe it's between me and God and the person. But I got to tell you that I love being able to help and to be able to be generous. And I, the second story that I want to go into. So that's first story illustrates that in order to really be living God's will for your life and be able to be a blessing on other people, you got to have yourself taken care of to the point to where you have extra so that you can help other people with that extra. And then the second thing that I thought was kind of cool is yesterday at church. So my father-in-law has been going through some really crummy health circumstances. And up until just a few days ago, he needs a heart transplant. And he was having a lot of trouble getting on the list, and there's a lot of things going on, and he hasn't been able to work now for a handful of years. And just long story short, they were just my mother-in-law and my father-in-law really in a bad spot in life in a lot of ways. And two things happened that I thought was really cool. One, my church asked everybody a few weeks ago to just bring $1 with them to church. And that we were going to do basically like a $1 ministry where everybody just brings $1 and puts it in this $1 ministry. And then the church prays over it. And they then take that money and give it to somebody in the church that it's put on their hearts. And so I thought it was really cool that they prayed about it and they ended up giving, and it would end up being $1,000. So our church, just $1 at a time, $1,000 that got given to my in-laws. And so that's going to be an incredible blessing in their life. And I thought that was amazing. But the other thing about this story, so, my in-laws live here in Las Vegas. And for whatever reason, we all think it's kind of weird, but they don't do heart transplant surgery here in Las Vegas. So he got on the list. Thank God, praise the Lord. He got on the heart transplant list. So he's on the list. But he was told that he needs to get to San Diego, California in 4 hours when they get a heart. Well, he can't fly in a traditional jet the way that, the air and stuff, and without having any doctors around or anything like that. He can't fly in a traditional, airplane. So there's been a lot of worry amongst us family members and stuff like, how are we going to get him, to San Diego that fast? Because I can drive from here to about an hour and a half away from San Diego in 4 hours. And that's if I'm moving and praying that there ain't any cops radaring. So even if I wanted to get in my car and do 100 the whole way and didn't get pulled over, I would have a very tough time getting there in 4 hours. Maybe an ambulance with lights and stuff on could maybe make it. But even then, if anything came up at all along the way, bad traffic, an accident, anyways, I'm going into too many details, but let's just leave it at, we're worried about how he is going to get there. But something that I thought was really cool, my pastor, one of the pastors, asked the church, he said, hey, when Emmanuel gets his heart is ready to go for him, he needs to be in San Diego in 4 hours or less. Is anybody here? Do they own a plane or a helicopter? Or do you know anybody that owns a plane or a helicopter? Because if we could find somebody that owned a plane or a helicopter and they would be willing to take a manual, that would solve the problem. And it made me tear up, just like it's making me tear up right now. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because I'm mad at myself for not having a plane or a helicopter right now. And I'm mad at myself for not having the money to be able to pay for a plane or a helicopter yet. But you know what? If something like this happens to one of my family members in a year, I would have jumped out of my chair and said, hey, Pastor Russell, I can provide a plane. I can provide that helicopter. Folks, you got to realize that this channel ain't about Lambos and private jets. And yeah, I mean, I do want to have a private jet someday, but that isn't why I'm doing this. But if I had a private jet, this is the kind of stuff that I would be using it for. The world right now has a lot of people out there that are hurting. They need us to step up and to be the men and women that we're capable of being, to be the best version of ourselves. Somebody asked this gentleman that I have a lot of respect for, that I've been listening to. They asked him, how much money do you want to make? And he said, as much as I can. And folks, it's not because he needs more money. He's already got multiple millions. It's because he wants to be the best version of himself. And he believes that one of the reasons God put us on this planet and to have this test in our lives, this life is a test, is so that we can become the best version of ourselves. I'm working on that with my health right now. I know that I'm nowhere near the best version of myself health-wise. I know that I'm nowhere near the best version of myself wealth-wise. And folks, this is important stuff. Me, having worked harder over the last handful of years and done a better job of managing the crypto wealth that I accumulated back in 2021, I would have the money to be able to pay and help my father-in-law save his life. And so, folks, I hope that you got some good stuff out of this video. I still ain't got to the number one thing that you're doing wrong that's keeping you from crypto success. So give me a quick second here. Let me find my notebook again that I just knocked all over the place. Actually, I don't need the notebook. Let me clear my eyes, get out of this emotional state in a way, and give it to you guys. So it's going to sound too simple, but the number one mistake that you guys are making and that I made, so I'm not just saying, when I say you guys, it's just people in general, especially when it comes to crypto. The number one thing, and this might kind of surprise you at first, but then when you really think about it, you probably have an aha moment. The number one thing is you're not patient enough. Let that sink in. You aren't patient enough. Folks, when I got involved in crypto in 17, going into 18, I came in and hit the peak of that bull market from literally November of about 2017 until January of 2018. Token after token after token after token, 25, 50, 100x'd in just a month and a half, 2-month period of time. Bitcoin hit its huge stride and went all the way up to, over 20,000. There were tokens like Ethereum during that bull market that went from $9 to a high of $1,400. That's one of the tokens that my mentor, Jonathan Kelly, was trying to get me to buy. He literally bought Ethereum at $9. But I jumped in thinking that I was going to have this incredible wealth in 2018, and then the bottom dropped out of the market, very similar to the way it just did in 22 and most of 23. And for those of you that are new, you're too impatient. You think that you're going to buy some crypto today and that in a week or two or even a month or two, that it's going to do this phenomenal things and that you're going to be wealthy. And I'm here to tell you folks that that's just not how it works. And honestly, for most of you, if you somehow got lucky enough to buy a Shibu Inu or something and threw $1,000 into something like that, and you woke up next week or next month and it was worth $1 million, a lot of times it would ruin people's lives. So I think that there's something that happens that where you got to go through some lessons, you got to go through some pain so that you can truly appreciate the experience of the wealth and the happiness. But it's not just that, folks. It's just that it's cyclical. And so there's a lot of people right now, you're obviously watching this today, so it's not you, but can you imagine there are tens of thousands of people that have quit crypto in the last month because they bought into a token like Aerodrome at 80 cents and it ran up to $2, and they hear me talking about it. I did a video on Aerodrome. I think Aerodrome's going to be a $20, $25, $50, $100 token. And here they are, they're excited. They got $1,000 worth of it. And it literally in days, it literally went from 80 cents to over $2 in a few days. They're thinking, wow, my $1,000 is worth 2,500. And if Brad is right, man, let me see. I've got, I bought, at 80 cents, $1,000 would be, over 800 tokens, it'd be over 1,000 token, $1,000 at a bucket token. So man, if Brad's right, I've got, 1,500 of these tokens. If it goes to $100 a token, I'm going to have a big pile of money. And then, the halving happens, the buy the rumor, sell the news happens, Bitcoin retraces. Bitcoin only retraced maybe say 15, 20%. I don't know the exact percentage, but in that ballpark. But a lot of the altcoins got crushed off by 40, 50, 60%. And you know what I heard? I wish I could show you guys all of the messages that I got from not only from viewers, but from my friends. And I got a couple of guys that, close business associates that invest with me that are like texting me, freaking out, man. The sky is falling. What's going on, Brad? What happened? Like ready to jump out a window over it. And I tried to tell them, hey, guys, this is just another day in crypto, man. This is going to happen between now and the end of the year. And when Bitcoin's at 150, 200, 250,000, this is going to happen multiple times, folks. It's just part of the deal. It's part of what we sign up for in crypto. But so many people are not here to put in the work. They want to get lucky. They want to get lucky. They want to hear, hey, YouTuber so-and-so said this crypto was going to go, do 1,000x. And so they just randomly go run out and buy it because they heard somebody like me talk about it. And, don't get me wrong, folks, like I'm here for educational purposes and I am showing you guys my playbook. I'm buying the tokens that I'm talking about and I believe in these projects and I know that it's going to create wealth in my life. But at the same time, you should never just take anybody's word for it. I usually have double checked my sources with 2 or 3 other people that I like and that I trust, and I've done my own due diligence. And, I'm not just going and watching Chico Crypto talk about XYZ token and running over to an exchange and buying a bunch of it before I even know exactly what it is. And so you got to wrap your mind around the fact that if you're part of this job, if you're part of this, what we were talking about today, where you're enslaved and in bondage to this 9 to 5, a lot of you have been doing this for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. If you're 40 years old, you've been working a job now for probably 20 plus years. Don't think that you're going to undo 20 years worth of work in 20 days or even in 20 months. Yeah, I am of the belief that you can create some phenomenal wealth in the next 12 months. But for some of you, if you're starting at a really bad place in life, if you're starting at negative, if you're starting with 10, 20, $50,000 in debt, $100,000 in debt between credit cards and car payments and all of that stuff, and you don't have a ton of money to invest, like if you don't have, $500, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 a month to invest, or figure out a way to create some money to invest, it might take you 2 cycles. Well, let me ask you this. If you're 40 and your 2 choices are to learn everything that you can about crypto, to watch these videos, to start investing, and during this bull market over the next 12 months, you make enough money and you get yourself educated to the point where you now are starting to do pretty well in life. Maybe you don't have financial freedom yet, but you're debt free. You're not worrying about how you're going to pay next month's bills. You got a little bit of extra money to help people with, and you've got a crypto portfolio that is starting to become worth some substantial money. And then you have to go through another down cycle, which is not a bad thing, because if you time it right and you pull out a big chunk of your money during the next down cycle, like say from the middle of 25 or so through 27-ish, going into 28, the next halving will be in 28. Let's say that now you go through that downturn, you're really able to buy into a huge amount of things because your financial position is much better. And now you position yourself to be worth millions and millions and millions of dollars during the bull run of 28 going into 29. Would that really be so bad? Like, the alternative, folks, is to just keep working your job that you hate and where you're barely existing for the next 20 or 30 years and still not have enough money probably to really comfortably retire and do what you want to do and enjoy what you want to do in life. And if somehow you do miraculously end up at 65 or 70 years old with a great big huge pile of money, that's fantastic. But how many years are you going to have to enjoy it? How good is your health going to be to enjoy it, folks? Like, I'm 50 years old and I still get around relatively well, but man, like, I want to do my traveling now. I want to go to these incredible places, France and Italy and Ireland and Bali, and I want to travel the world, and I want to do it while I'm young enough and healthy enough to actually enjoy it. And so think to yourself, hey, if I can get this done in the next year, great. But if it takes me 5 years, I'm okay with that. And have that mindset. Be patient. Quit worrying about these individual ups and downs. Crypto is like a heart attack chart. It isn't one of those charts where it just goes up and then just a little teeny down and then it goes up and a little teeny down. And man, crypto is up and then down and then up and down and up and down. And you kind of get my point. But 20 to 40% retracements are fairly normal and they're fairly healthy. And part of the reason they happen, folks, so if you've ever wondered why does a stock never go down 20, 30, 40, 50% in a short period of time, but crypto does. If that's ever, been on your mind, let me answer that question for you. It's mostly because stocks are also the exact same opposite in the other direction. So very rarely will you see a stock that does some kind of an incredible number, like where all of a sudden it goes from $10 to $100. And you'll almost never see a stock go from $10 to, say, $1,000, which would be 100x. That almost never happens. If you go back and look at the last few decades of stock, you will be hard pressed to find a stock that went from $10 to $1,000 in a short period of time. Yeah, you've got stocks like Microsoft that over the course of a decade did it. And Microsoft probably had some pretty big jumps where maybe it went from $10 to $20 or $30 or $40 and stuff. But Microsoft and Amazon and all of those stocks that have become, worth millions and billions and now even into the trillions, they had their ups and downs too. Amazon back in the 90s, or no, it was Apple. Apple, back before it created the iPod, you know, that little music thing that you could listen on. Apple was going through some tremendously difficult times. And there was an investor that had a huge hedge fund, and he was investing money for his investors. And he wanted to put a ton of money into Apple while it was beaten down. Like, it had gotten beaten down 50, 60, 70%. People were scared to death of Apple, but he knew the iPod was coming out. And he used that, you know, little old saying where Warren Buffett says, buy when the blood is in the streets. He used that to his advantage, and he got into Apple ahead of the iPod and some of those things. You know, they had the iPod, which then turned into the iPhone, which turned into the iPad. But long story short, yeah, during some of those times, some of those companies had some huge economic growth, but none of them really did 100x in a short time. And then to imagine taking a $10 stock and turning it into a $10,000 per share stock is absolutely unheard of, especially in a short period of time. But it happens in crypto, folks, and it happens fairly quickly. So when you have something that goes up that hard and that fast and that violent, as the old saying goes, what goes up must come down, even if it's only temporarily. Because remember, folks, there's humans behind that going up. So you got a lot of humans that got in on this token at $10, $20, $50, $100. Even if they got into it at $1,000, it's $10,000 now. They got life-changing money. They got YouTubers like me saying, hey, you idiot, if you bought into this token at $10 and it's sitting at $10,000, sell it. I mean, even if it's going to go to $20,000 or $30,000, you don't know that for sure. But what you do know is that you got life-changing money right now in your grasp. All you got to do, go over to your computer screen and hit a couple buttons, and all of a sudden you've got, you know, millions of dollars in your account. So that's why, you know, maybe that's a pretty rude, elementary explanation, but that's really one of the reasons why the volatility is what it is. In the crypto market over the last, year, while Bitcoin was going from 17,000 to over 70,000, which is still only a 5x, how many of you made 5x on any one of the stocks in your portfolio? And the answer is probably none, especially if you were in bigger, more established, financially safe companies that are providing a good return. Your 401k might have went up by 20% in the last year. Maybe if you had a really good 401k, it went up by 40%, 50%, but I guarantee you there's not one person on this call that's got their money in a company owned like 401k where their 401k went up 500% in the last year. And not to mention that, look at tokens like Solidus that we talked about that went from a fraction of a penny to as high as 50 cents. Aerodrome. I started talking about Aerodrome at 80 cents. I heard about it at 40 cents, and I didn't get into it until it was at 80. But if you go back and look, Aerodrome, the beginning of this year, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was pennies. You could have bought Aerodrome back in January of this year for less than 10 cents. I'm almost sure of it. It might have been all the way down like at around a penny or so. So there's a crypto that you could have 200x'd your money on. And now you'd be crying because it's all the way back down to around $1, $1.20 or whatever it is. It didn't retrace as hard as a lot of projects. But my point, folks, is you ain't patient enough. So for those of you that have been wondering, what do I got to do to really be successful in crypto and create life-changing money? One thing that you really need to do is be more patient. Write that down. Write it on a mirror in your bathroom. Write it everywhere. But then the other thing that I think you guys are going to think is funny is this came to my mind at the same time the absolute number one mistake that you are making, the other number one mistake that you are making. Can anybody in the chat guess what the second thing that I'm going to say is? And it's a little, I'll give you a hint. It's slightly paradoxical, if that's a word, paradoxical or whatever, to what I just talked about. In other words, it's kind of the exact opposite of what I just talked about. Can anybody in the chat maybe take a guess at what the other number one mistake that you've been making is? Well, I'll just go ahead and tell you, folks. The number one mistake that you're making is you ain't in a big enough hurry. How can that be possible, Brad? Which is it? I'm here to tell you, folks, it's both. Some of you aren't patient enough, and some of you ain't in a big enough hurry. There's some of you watching this video today that have been thinking about buying crypto for 6 months and ain't never bought one token. And how do I know? Because I coach a lot of people individually in cryptocurrency. I've got a huge network of friends and family and different people that have watched me create wealth and watched me do what I've done in my life over the last few years. And it is still mind-boggling to me how many of them say, I'm still thinking about doing it. Folks, you ain't going to make any money thinking about it. You got to start doing it. You got to quit being afraid you're going to lose your money. Money is replaceable, folks. How many times in your life has something come up unexpectedly, like a car broke down and you had to replace the transmission or the radiator or the water heater or something in your car, and it was $1,000 and you didn't have $1,000? What did you do? Did you just walk to work for the next month? No. You put it on a credit card. You borrowed it from a family member. You got a part-time job. You figured it out. My point is, folks, money is replaceable. If you use money to invest in crypto and you lose it, you didn't lose your money. You gained experience. You know how many times I had to lose all of my money in crypto before I actually figured it out? That's something that we don't talk about often enough in crypto. Ben Armstrong, Chico Crypto, Crypto Lark, Elio Trades, all of us have lost thousands and thousands of dollars in crypto. Now, part of that was probably because we didn't have people around to educate us back in the beginning. Ben Armstrong, BitBoy Crypto, he didn't always, he wasn't always Ben Armstrong, BitBoy Crypto. He was brand new Ben at one point in time. And if you go back and listen to his story, he made a lot of mistakes, but he learned from those mistakes. And the fact of the matter is, if you never take the first leap, if you never jump into the arena, you cannot win. You cannot turn nothing into millions of dollars, folks. So you got to get in the game. It's frustrating, and I love you guys, and so I hope this isn't too tough of love. And it's also one of those weird things where I got to be careful because, like, on one hand, this is not financial advice, blah, 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 blah. Never listen to anybody and do what they tell you to do. Like we have to say that, so that we avoid, legalities and stuff like that. And it's the truth. Like, I am not a financial advisor. I don't have my securities licenses. I am legally not allowed, to give you direct financial advice. If I were to tell you, hey, folks, you, Deadwood, should go buy XYZ crypto right now, and you went and bought it, and it went to zero and you lost all your money, you could hire a lawyer, and all of a sudden I'd be sitting in front of a court and end up owing Deadwood his money back. So for legality purposes, we are required to make it clear that we are not financial advisors and that that this is not financial advice. On the flip side, folks, why are you watching my videos if you're never going to invest in any of the tokens that I talk about? So, man, how many of you are guilty of this? And you don't have to raise your hand or say anything in the chat. But over the last month or so, I've talked about Aerodrome. I talked about the build token, Starter Labs, this last weekend. We talked about GPT Plus. We talked about, the Gains platform and the Gains token. We talked about, what's the other one on my mind? But like, we've got the Wednesday microcap gem stream where I talked about 4 or 5 tokens, 10, and then Octavia. And like, in the last month or so, I've talked about at least 10 or 15 different tokens. How many of you have not ever bought even one of those tokens? Just ask yourself that question. I'm not saying that you should go out and buy every single token that I'm talking about, but man, if I'm worth my salt at all, and you're spent the last hour and a half listening to me, it would seem like you would maybe go take a closer look at some of these tokens and actually get some funds invested into them. And once again, I say, if you haven't bought any crypto in the last month because you don't have any funds, if you say, Brad, I want to buy these tokens, I just don't have the money, then you got to go back to the very, very first Monday Mindset Mastery and listen to that, because we talk about it. You should never use the words, I can't afford it, or I don't have any money. You should always be using the words, how can I afford it? Or how can I get some money together to do some of this crypto stuff that I know is so important? And man, there's so many ways. Sell your extra car. Like, if you got a car that's sitting in your driveway and it ain't been drove for a month, or it only gets drove once a month, yeah, it might be slightly inconvenient. Would you rather have to spend $50 on an Uber once a month? Or would you rather have a $5,000 or $7,000 or $10,000 bill that you sold your used car for, that you can invest in crypto and potentially take that $5,000 or $10,000 and turn into enough money to buy a brand new car cash if you want to? Do a garage sale. Sell off a few $100s worth of items stuff that's in junk that's in your garage. Think about getting rid of some of the stuff that's costing you money. My buddy calls TVs the electric reduction machine, or revenue reduction machine. A TV, he calls it a revenue reduction machine, because 99.9% of us don't make any money watching TV. Yet there's probably a high likelihood that just about everybody watching this video is probably spending multiple hours a day watching TV. If you aren't, that's awesome. Congratulations. I would have thrown my TV away a long time ago, but my wife won't let me. True story. Like, I hate TVs. I don't want to be watching somebody else living their dream. I don't want to be watching somebody else, doing the things in life that I want to be doing. I want to be doing them. Now, don't get me wrong. Me and my wife, we have a couple of our favorite shows, and it's one of the ways that we spend some time together. So I do spend some time watching TV, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings if she was on board with it. I'd just throw the sucker away, because I would rather be watching my YouTube channel or somebody else's YouTube channel. Like, just in the last week, guys, I wish maybe I'll start documenting it. I wish you guys would see how much time I spend educating myself, mindset. But I'm also, like I just told my son, Josh, can you confirm this, please? What did I just ask you to look up the other day about crypto? Do you remember the farming?
Oh yeah, Aerodrome YouTube farming.
Aerodrome YouTube farming. So one of my community members told me that he was making a killing on Aerodrome YouTube farming. So I told my son, hey, we need to start looking into Aerodrome and the farming. And, that's one of the things that is not one of probably my strongest points in crypto. I'm a buy and hold and create long-term wealth, but I'm not silly enough to think that there aren't some other amazing strategies out there. So that's something that you're probably going to be hearing about on the channel. But not only did I ask him to go look it up, I started looking it up, and I watched hours of videos and came across 2 or 3 new YouTubers and educating myself on how to do that. And once I figure it out and feel comfortable sharing it with you, that's something that I'm going to add to my repertoire in another way that I'm hopefully going to help you guys change your lives financially. So get in a bigger hurry, figure this out. You know, it's okay at some point in time in your life to have more than one job. You know, if you're 50, 60 years old and you ain't got the time or the energy, whatever, fine. But I know from my demographics that a huge portion of the people that watch my channel are 18 to 25. And then the next biggest group is 25 to 35. So I know that most of you young bucks out there are just watching this video going, gosh, man, I hope I got more hair than Brad does when I'm 50. But I appreciate you youngsters watching me. It makes me feel good to know that there's a lot of young people that are a part of this YouTube experience and that are excited about crypto and life moving forward. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, I've got a lot of 50, to 75, 80-year-olds also that watch me too. I think I must do an okay job of appealing to a wide demographic. But if you're 18 to 25, and especially if you're single and you don't have a family, and even if you do to a certain extent, depending on what your situation is, go get a second job, man. If you live in the United States and it's an area where it's fruitful enough, Uber is not always a great answer, but Uber could be a fantastic way to go make an extra 50 or 100 bucks a day and then come home and invest that into crypto. And instead of making $50 a day Ubering, you 10x that and you made $500 a day Ubering. How many days this year would you have to Uber and make an extra $500 a day in order to significantly change your life, folks? Let me pull out my little trusty calculator here so I don't give you any bad math. Let's say that you took a few days off a week and that you just worked 5 days a week. So what is that, 5, and you took 2 weeks off, so that's 50 weeks in the year times 5 days, so that's 250 days. I think 250 days times 500 is $125,000, folks. You know that in some days you could probably make $50 in a couple of hours Ubering. But even if it took you, 3 or 4 hours, would it be worth, if somebody told you right now that if you came and worked for me and you worked for 4 hours a day, that in a year's time, I would give you $125,000 cash for coming and working for me for 4 hours a day? Is there anybody on this channel that wouldn't do that? If there is, congratulations that you're doing that amazing in life. But folks, I would say that even if you're out there making $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 a year in your full-time gig, that it might be worth putting 2, 3, 4 hours a week into something else that is going to multiply. And folks, that's just at 10x. That's just turning 50 into 500. What if it turns into 1,000? Or what if you hit one of these coins that does 100x? I can't even do that math. I think 50 times 100 is $5,000 though. Let me double check. I don't want to be making any claims that ain't true. Yeah, 50 times 100 is $5,000, folks. How many of you would be willing to work an extra 3, 4 hours a day for $5,000 a day for the next 250 days? Do you guys understand 250 times 5,000 is $1.25 million? Whew. All right, guys, it's been almost 2 hours. I love you. I'm going to let you get on with your day and enjoy it. I do want to go back up into the chat here real quick. I saw a few comments that I wanted to just talk about here real fast, and I just wanted to say thank you again for everybody that's been here. Alexander, thank you for coming and being here. And oh, you said XTP, Brad, US launch soon. That's something to definitely take a close look at. I appreciate that. Sal, wake up to a job that slowly kills you every day for the rest of your life. Sounds like slavery to me. I agree, Sal. And that reminds me, Sal, if you're still on here, I emailed you last week, man, and I still ain't gotten a response. We're due to get together, man. I'm excited to spend that hour with you. Get in the email address and give me your phone number so that we can connect. Haydar Malik. Hey, my friend, God bless you for being here. It's been a while, man. I hope that you are excited about this crypto bull market and excited about everything that is coming. And I really look forward to seeing you, hopefully, more consistently now. Hey, and I just wanted to mention Crypto with Rico. This gentleman has an incredible YouTube channel, folks. I met this young man a couple of years ago. He's putting together an incredible crypto portfolio. I don't remember exactly where he lives. Darn it. It's on the other side of the world, though. He's about, I think it's 8 or 9 or 10 hours ahead of us. And we're going to have him on the channel tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. He is going to be on the channel with us. We're going to record a video. So I guess it won't actually be visible to you guys at 1 o'clock, but he's coming up the channel, and I'm going to have him, and we're going to interview him. He's going to tell us about some of the things that are working in crypto for him, how he is making life-changing wealth in crypto. And so we're going to get that video recorded tomorrow, and then we're going to get it out to you, hopefully as quickly as possible. But be on the lookout and go check him out right now. You can just go YouTube search Crypto with Rico, and I think you'll really enjoy him. He's a young man. Got a beautiful wife and a couple of kids, and a couple of young kids, and he's full-time now. He was able to go full-time into his passion, was able to leave his 40-hour-a-week bondage here just recently. So if you get a chance to go support him, that would be awesome. Hey, Dave Flowers, man, listening to a little break at work. Well, hopefully your boss don't hear you listening to it, or maybe hopefully he does. You never know. But I hope that this was a blessing for you. I hope that you learned some good stuff, and hopefully, hopefully this is, helping to change some people's lives. Deadwood again. Find a local flight school. You should be able to find private owners via the small airport. Worked as a ground crew for Piedmont Aviation 25 years ago. Hey, thank you very much, man. I'm going to screenshot that, and that's, appreciate that. You never know. That advice could be, saving my father-in-law's life. So thank you so much for taking that, man. Appreciate it. The real mindset to have. Do your own research. Great word, Brad. Thank you, Eric. Man, appreciate you being here. And, just no money, go sell plasma. And then Greg, man, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Greg has also been another long time supporter of the channel. So with that, folks, that's all of the comments and stuff that I've seen that I wanted to go through. So, with that, thank you so much for spending a couple hours of your life with me today. And, once again, on Wednesday morning, same time, 9 in the morning, we've got the Crypto Microcap Gem live stream, where not only do I bring the new microcap gems that are on my radar and that I'm buying and adding to my portfolio to that live stream, but you actually, as viewers, have an opportunity to come onto the channel, support the channel with a little super chat, and then I will go over any of the tokens that you want me to take a look at. Pull them up on CoinGecko, look at the team a little bit, look at their websites, look at their socials, look at their market cap, look at their tokenomics, and really do a few minute deep dive video, overview of any token that you're excited about. So not only is that valuable for you guys, but I love it when you bring tokens to the community, because it's also super valuable to the community. So with that, folks, thank you again for being here. God bless you all. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you again real soon in the next video.